Ethan stared at the crowded colony plaza and shook his head. The humans around him were busy with their own worlds. Traders haggling over prices, children chasing each other in circles, and engineers like him rushing between workstations. For a moment, he felt the strange weight of loneliness, a feeling he had carried since leaving Earth to settle on this distant hub at the edge of human-controlled space. He tried to shake it off with a grin. Humor had always been his shield, and today he decided to use it. Standing on a small platform that overlooked the plaza, he lifted his voice in a joking tone, half for himself and half for anyone who might care to listen. "Is there anyone who wants to marry me?" he shouted. The words bounced through the plaza, and for a moment, nothing happened. People stopped and stared at him. Some laughed. Some shook their heads. One small child pointed and ran away, giggling. Ethan laughed along, shrugging. "Just kidding," he muttered, stepping down from the platform, but the echo of his voice lingered longer than he expected. What he did not know was that his words were carried far beyond the colony plaza. The communication system he had been testing that day, an experimental signal booster meant to reach nearby space stations, was stronger than he realized. Its waves extended into deep space, bouncing off the nearby asteroid belt and beyond, traveling across the void where only the stars dared to shine. Somewhere far away, in the shadow of a violet gas giant, a figure stirred. Althara, an alien vampire woman, lifted her head. Her eyes, a striking shade of silver that seemed to glow even in the dim light of her home world, focused on a faint ripple that had crossed her sensors. It was a voice, human, curious, and bold. The signal was unusual. Most humans had no idea how to project their intentions into space. But this one had called out as if he knew someone would answer. Althara tilted her head, intrigued. She had been traveling alone for centuries, seeking knowledge, understanding, and occasionally amusement. And now this voice, light and daring, had found its way into her consciousness. She had not expected it. She had not anticipated it. And yet she felt drawn. Back on the colony, Ethan returned to his small workshop, pretending to busy himself with circuits and metal panels. His friends teased him relentlessly. "Do you really expect someone to answer that?" One of them laughed, a young pilot named Mara. "I mean, it's a joke, right?" "Yeah, totally a joke," Ethan said, though a part of him wondered what might happen if it weren't. He ran a hand through his messy hair and laughed nervously. "Humans already think I'm crazy. Let's not give them more reason." But strange things were already happening. A soft hum filled the air, almost like electricity dancing across the plaza, though no one else noticed it. Lights flickered briefly, and distant screens displayed small glitches before returning to normal. No one saw the ripple of energy, but it traveled across the colony like a quiet heartbeat. Althara had already made her decision. She would visit this human who dared to speak so boldly. The audacity, the humor, the very energy of his call. It was unlike anything she had encountered in all her travels. Humans were fragile, yes, and unpredictable, but they had a spark that fascinated her. Meanwhile, Ethan tried to focus on his work, assembling a small drone that could help with maintenance in low-gravity areas. He was careful, methodical, and skilled, but even he couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. It was subtle at first, a shadow that lingered just beyond the corner of his eye, a soft whisper of movement where no one should be. Hours passed, and night fell over the colony. The artificial lights cast long shadows, and the stars shone cold and distant through the massive observation windows. Ethan wiped sweat from his forehead, satisfied with the progress he had made on his drone. He leaned back in his chair and let out a long sigh. "Another quiet night," he muttered to himself. But then the hum returned, stronger this time. Vibrating through the metal floors and walls, the air felt heavier, almost charged. Ethan froze. He had always been sensitive to energy fluctuations, but this was different. Something alive was approaching. Outside, a shape appeared against the stars, moving with smooth, almost liquid grace. It was a spacecraft, unlike any Ethan had ever seen. Sleek and shimmering, it glinted in colors he could barely describe. And at its helm stood a figure, tall, elegant, and striking. Pale skin that seemed to glow faintly, eyes like liquid silver, and hair that flowed as if caught in a gentle wind, though there was none. Ethan's jaw dropped. He stumbled backward, knocking over a small tool. What is that?" he whispered. His friends, alerted by the sudden light and hum, gathered near the observation deck, eyes wide with awe and fear. The ship landed silently on the plaza, the glow fading to a soft, ambient shimmer. A hatch opened, and Althara stepped out, moving with a grace that seemed almost unreal. She paused, surveying the humans around her, and then fixed her gaze on Ethan. "You called," she said, her voice smooth, melodic, and strangely commanding. "I came." Ethan could hardly breathe. I didn't." He waved his hands nervously, realizing that his joke had somehow summoned something entirely beyond his understanding. "I was joking." Althara tilted her head, studying him. "I am aware. But your joke is unusual. In my world, such calls are not made lightly. They must be answered." His friends muttered and whispered among themselves, some pointing, some shaking their heads. Mara stepped forward cautiously. You're a vampire?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. Althara smiled faintly, showing no teeth. "A term from your literature, yes. But I am more than that. I am a traveler, a seeker of knowledge, and now an observer of you." Ethan's mind raced. Part of him wanted to run. Part of him was fascinated. He had read about alien species, about vampire myths, about encounters that spanned galaxies. But nothing had prepared him for this. A being of elegance and power, standing calmly in the middle of the human colony, looking at him like he was interesting. Welcome," he managed to say, feeling foolish even as the words left his mouth. Althara's gaze softened slightly. "Do not be afraid. I do not intend harm. I am curious. And your voice, it carries something unique." The hum of her ship faded, leaving a strange calm over the plaza. Ethan noticed that even the colony's usual chatter seemed quieter, as if the humans themselves were holding their breath. He swallowed hard. "Well, I guess this is unexpected." Althara's eyes glimmered with amusement. "Unexpected, yes. But sometimes the unexpected teaches us the most." For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Ethan's friends began whispering more urgently, trying to process what had just happened. Mara shook her head, muttering, "This is insane! Totally insane!" Ethan, though still in shock, felt a strange excitement growing inside him. This was not just an ordinary day. This was the beginning of something extraordinary. Somehow, in a moment of humor, he had reached across space, and someone had answered. Althara finally stepped closer, her movement smooth and unhurried. "Tell me, human, what is your name?" "Ethan," he said, finding his voice. "Ethan Carter." "I am Althara," she replied, "and I believe our meeting was meant to happen." The word "meant" echoed oddly in Ethan's mind. He laughed nervously, rubbing the back of his neck. "Well, I was just joking, really. I didn't expect anyone at all to come." Althara's smile widened faintly. "Sometimes jokes carry truth, human. Sometimes truth comes in forms we cannot predict." And with that, the plaza was no longer ordinary. Humanity had reached its edges in ways Ethan could never have imagined, and something remarkable had just arrived to cross paths with him. For the first time in a long while, Ethan felt alive, not just in the way a human could feel, but in the way a universe could acknowledge his presence. The stars outside seemed brighter, the colony smaller, and the possibilities endless. And somewhere in the shadows of the plaza, a faint ripple of energy, almost like a heartbeat, seemed to whisper, "This is only the beginning." The colony had never seen anything like it. Althara's ship rested quietly on the central plaza, its smooth, reflective surface catching the lights of the surrounding buildings. For most humans, the sudden appearance of an alien being in the middle of their home would have caused panic, but there was something in Althara's calm presence that commanded attention. Ethan stood frozen for a moment, still trying to process what had happened the previous night. His joke, meant to be nothing more than a laugh, had somehow reached a distant corner of space, and now that call had been answered. Althara stepped gracefully from her ship, each movement smooth and deliberate. Her eyes, shining silver under the plaza lights, scanned the humans around her. When they landed on Ethan, they softened. There was a curiosity there, a fascination. "You are the human who called?" she asked. Her voice was musical, yet carried an authority that silenced the nearby murmurs. Ethan nodded, trying to hide the mix of fear and excitement. Yes, that was me." A few of his friends had gathered behind him, whispering nervously. Mara, still wide-eyed, muttered, "This is insane. You called and she actually came?" Ethan shrugged, awkwardly scratching his head. "Apparently, yeah." Althara's lips curved into a small smile. "In my culture, such a call is considered a challenge. It is rare for one to speak so boldly across the stars." Boldness is often rewarded. The humans exchanged puzzled glances. Boldness? Challenge? Ethan wasn't sure what she meant, but he felt a thrill he couldn't explain. "I guess you could say I'm bold," he said, trying to sound casual. His voice shook slightly, though. Althara's gaze lingered on him. "Bold, yes. That is interesting." For a moment, the plaza was silent except for the soft hum of her ship. Then a small group of humans stepped forward, cautious but curious. Scientists, traders, and engineers all drawn by the unusual presence. Some carried scanning devices, others simply observed. Ethan felt both pride and anxiety. He hadn't expected attention like this. "Do you need anything?" Ethan asked, unsure if he should offer water, food, or a seat. Althara shook her head. "No, I do not require what your species calls sustenance at this moment, but I wish to learn. Humanity, is intriguing. I wish to observe it closely." Ethan blinked. "Observe? Like a study?" "Perhaps," Althara said, her voice calm. "But not only study, understanding, sharing, connection. Your world is small in the universe, but your spirit is unique." Ethan swallowed, feeling both nervous and proud. No one had ever said anything like that to him. Not teachers, not friends, not even his parents. Yet this alien being, stranger than anything he could have imagined, seemed to recognize something in him that others overlooked. Well, you're welcome," he said awkwardly. Althara's silver eyes glimmered, as if amused. "I accept your welcome." The humans lingered nearby, still uncertain. Some scanned her with devices. Others whispered among themselves. The colony leadership arrived quickly, alerted by the unusual landing. Commander Halloran, a tall man with graying hair and a no-nonsense expression, stepped forward. "Identify yourself," he said, his voice firm but controlled. "State your intentions." Althara turned to him, her expression calm and neutral. "I am Althara. I have received a call from a human named Ethan Carter. My purpose is to meet him and to learn about your people." Halloran's brow furrowed. Learn about us? That is vague. Althara tilted her head slightly. I do not mean harm. I am curious. I have traveled far, and I am drawn to your species' spirit. You create, survive, and laugh in ways other species rarely understand. Ethan felt his chest swell with pride. She thinks humans are special, he whispered to Mara. Mara blinked. Yeah, I think she's really serious. Like, super serious. Halloran studied Althara closely, his trained eyes noting her alien physiology, her aura, and the subtle energy that surrounded her. Very well, he said finally. You may stay, but you will remain under observation until we understand your intentions. Althara inclined her head slightly. Agreed. Observation is reasonable. Ethan felt a strange mix of relief and anticipation. This was his world, but now it included something, or someone, he had never imagined. Over the next hours, Ethan guided Althara around the colony. She moved with astonishing grace, avoiding crowds and navigating tight spaces as if gravity and obstacles were mere suggestions. She asked questions, each one revealing her curiosity about humans' lives, emotions, and inventions. What is this? She asked, pointing to a maintenance drone hovering in the workshop. Ethan grinned. Oh, that's one of my projects. It helps with repairs in low-gravity sections of the colony. I designed it to be small, efficient, and self-correcting. Althara reached out and touched the drone gently. Your species creates tools, with elegance, not just for function, but for beauty. Interesting. Ethan blinked. Thanks. I guess? She turned her gaze to him, silver eyes reflecting the soft light. You humans, you survive against odds that would destroy many other species. You are fragile, yet persistent. You invent, laugh, and hope even when the universe seems indifferent. That is remarkable. Ethan felt a warmth in his chest. No one had ever spoken about humans like that before. Even the colony leaders saw humans as practical, sometimes stubborn, but never admirable in this way. Thanks, he said softly. I think that's really nice to hear. As they walked, she observed the colony, the markets, the workshops, the parks where children ran in zero-gravity fields. Her presence drew attention, but the humans soon realized she meant no harm. Some even followed her quietly, curious about the alien who had come so unexpectedly. During the tour, Ethan explained human customs, showing Althara how they celebrated small achievements, how they used humor to deal with challenges, and how they built technology to survive in harsh environments. She listened carefully, her head tilted slightly, absorbing every detail. And your emotions? She asked suddenly. They seem volatile. Joy, anger, fear, hope, all at once. How do you endure? Ethan laughed nervously. I guess we just do. It's part of being human. Life is hard, but we keep going. We make mistakes, we fail, we laugh, and we try again. That's kind of our secret strength. Althara's eyes glimmered with admiration. It is a strength, unlike anything I have seen elsewhere. You are fragile, yes, but within that fragility lies resilience, courage, ingenuity. Very interesting. By the time the sun, or what passed for sun on the colony, began to rise, Ethan and Althara had shared stories of their worlds. She spoke of distant planets, ancient civilizations, and travels that spanned centuries. He shared tales of Earth, of humans' small victories and big dreams. For Ethan, it was exhilarating. His life, once ordinary, now felt as if it had expanded to touch the stars. And Althara, ever composed, seemed to enjoy the novelty of human behavior, the unpredictability, and the raw energy of life in a young species. As night returned, Althara stood at the edge of the plaza, looking up at the stars. "Your species has potential," she said quietly. "Potential that reaches far beyond this colony. You could change the universe, if you dared." Ethan felt a thrill run through him. Change the universe? That's a lot to think about. Althara smiled faintly. "Sometimes, the universe responds to those who are bold enough to call across the void. You did not expect anyone to answer, yet here I am." Ethan laughed softly, shaking his head. "Yeah, I guess my joke wasn't just a joke after all." And as the colony lights glimmered around them, Ethan realized something profound. The universe was vast, mysterious, and sometimes unpredictable. Yet, humans, his species, had a spark that could not be ignored. And now, with Althara by his side, the adventure had only just begun. Somewhere deep in the shadows of the plaza, the hum of Althara's ship pulsed softly, a reminder that something extraordinary had arrived. And for the first time in his life, Ethan felt that he was no longer just a human engineer on a remote colony. He was part of something much larger, a story that stretched across the stars. The morning light stretched across the colony, casting long shadows over the smooth metal surfaces of the plaza. Ethan arrived early at the central workshop, eager and nervous. He had spent the night thinking about Althara, her grace, her words, her mysterious silver eyes, and he could hardly wait to show her more of what humanity could do. Althara was already there, standing quietly near a cluster of machines. Her presence was calm, but there was a subtle energy about her, a quiet intensity that made the air feel alive. When she saw Ethan approaching, she inclined her head gracefully. "Good morning, human," she said. "I am ready to continue learning." Ethan chuckled. "Good morning, Althara. Ready is a good start. I hope you're prepared. Humans can be messy, loud, and completely unpredictable." Althara's eyes glimmered with amusement. "Unpredictability? I am aware. It is part of what makes your species fascinating." He led her to the workshop, explaining how humans designed machines, built habitats, and adapted to life in space. Althara moved among the devices carefully, examining each one with her sharp silver eyes. She touched some machines lightly, almost reverently, as if feeling the thought and effort that went into creating them. "This device," she said, pointing to a hovering repair drone, "it operates without constant supervision. It learns, adapts, and corrects its errors." "Very clever." Ethan nodded proudly. "Yeah, we try to make machines that can think for themselves, so we don't have to micromanage everything. It saves time and prevents accidents." Althara turned to him, her gaze intense. "Humans are creative and resourceful. You survive in harsh conditions not just with strength, but with intelligence and ingenuity. I am impressed." Ethan felt a surge of pride. Humans were often underestimated, even by other species, but Althara seemed to see them clearly, for their courage, their flaws, and their potential. After the workshop tour, Ethan decided to show her more personal aspects of human life. They walked through the colony market where vendors sold food, clothes, and odd trinkets from across nearby systems. Children ran through the paths, laughing and playing games that Ethan could barely follow. Althara observed quietly, tilting her head slightly. "This chaos. It is strange, yet it seems joyful." Ethan smiled. "It's called life. Messy, unpredictable, but full of moments that make it worth living. Humans thrive even in chaos." She studied him closely. "You thrive, despite fragility. You are small, yet your spirit is vast. Your species endures and grows against odds that would destroy many others. It is remarkable." They stopped at a small cafe where humans sat in groups eating and talking. Ethan bought 2 cups of a local beverage, a bitter, dark liquid humans called coffee, and handed one to Althara. She tilted the cup, examined it, and sniffed cautiously. "Will this sustain me?" she asked. Ethan laughed. "Not really. It's more for taste, and for waking up early humans like me." Althara raised an eyebrow, tasted it carefully, and made a soft noise that Ethan interpreted as approval. "The flavor, it is strong. Interesting." As they walked, Althara began to share stories of her own world. Ethan listened, fascinated, as she described ancient civilizations that had existed long before humans had set foot in space. She spoke of star systems with skies that burned in colors humans could not see, of creatures that communicated through energy rather than sound, and of ships that could travel faster than light by bending space itself. "It sounds incredible," Ethan said. "I can't even imagine seeing the universe like that." Althara's eyes glimmered. "You cannot imagine, yet your species has potential. You are young, fragile, and untested. But there is something within you, a spark. It is rare." Ethan felt both pride and humility. "Thanks. I think humans can surprise even themselves sometimes." Their conversation was interrupted by a small commotion near the edge of the plaza. A few humans pointed upward, and Ethan followed their gaze. A small scout ship, an unremarkable human craft, hovered too close to Althara's ship. It was investigating, curious about the alien presence. "Don't worry," Ethan said quickly. "They're just being careful. Humans are cautious, and sometimes nosy." Althara tilted her head, watching the scout. "Caution, yes. Curiosity, also present. I detect a mixture of fear and admiration. They are learning." "Yeah, that's us," Ethan said, smiling. "We observe, adapt, and try not to panic, mostly." Althara's expression softened. "I see why you endure, not just by strength, but by mind and spirit. Fascinating." The rest of the day passed with exploration and learning. Ethan showed Althara the colony's recreational areas, where humans exercised, played sports, and experimented with zero-gravity games. Althara observed closely, occasionally participating, her movements graceful and fluid. She seemed particularly fascinated by how humans could turn limitations into opportunities, using creativity to adapt to their environment. "You play, despite weakness," she remarked. "You turn fragility into expression. It is beautiful." Ethan laughed. "Yeah, we try. Life isn't perfect, but we make it interesting." Althara nodded. "Indeed, interesting. That is a human strength. I admire it." As the sun, or artificial equivalent, began to set, Ethan led her to the colony's observation deck, a wide platform overlooking the stars. He pointed toward distant planets and faint nebulae. "See that?" he said. "That's the Zorath system. Humans haven't settled there yet, but someday, maybe we will." Althara's eyes glimmered with light. "Your ambition is quiet, yet persistent. You do not know your limits, yet you push against them. Courage, ingenuity, remarkable qualities." Ethan felt a warmth in his chest. No human had ever spoken of humanity in such a way, and no alien had ever shown such interest in him personally. "Thanks. I think humans have a lot to learn, too. But maybe we're better than people give us credit for." Althara turned to him, her expression serious yet gentle. "You are correct. And you are unusual even among humans. Bold enough to call across the stars, yet humble enough to learn and observe. That is rare." Ethan laughed softly, rubbing the back of his neck. "Yeah, I guess my joke wasn't just a joke after all." Althara's eyes glimmered. "Sometimes jokes carry truth, and sometimes truth comes in forms unexpected. You have summoned possibility." The quiet evening was broken by a distant alarm. A red light blinked on the observation deck console, indicating a system alert. Ethan frowned. That's strange. It looks like a disturbance in the outer sectors. Althara's expression sharpened. Disturbance? Possibly approaching? I will investigate. Ethan hesitated. You might want to be careful. Humans are not always ready for trouble. Althara smiled faintly. I have faced dangers that would challenge entire civilizations. Yet, I am intrigued by what your species can achieve when faced with the unknown. Ethan felt both pride and a tinge of worry. Something was coming. Something that would test not only Althara but the humans as well. And he realized for the first time that the universe was not just vast, it was unpredictable, dangerous, and full of possibilities. He looked at Althara, silver eyes gleaming in the starlight, and thought, if humans could survive alongside this being, maybe they could survive anything. And so, as the stars shone above the colony, a silent bond formed between human and alien, one built on curiosity, respect, and the shared excitement of discovery. The universe was vast, but together they would face it. Little did Ethan know, the next days would bring challenges he had never imagined, threats that would push humanity to its limits and reveal the courage that lay within. But for now, in the calm of the observation deck, he felt alive. He felt human. And he felt, for the first time, that being human might be extraordinary enough to reach the stars. The colony woke to an unusual silence. Normally, the hum of engines, chatter of traders, and children's laughter filled the plazas and walkways. But today, something felt different. A strange tension hovered in the air, as if the universe itself had paused for a moment. Ethan noticed it first while walking toward the central plaza with Althara. Her presence was calm, yet there was an intensity in her eyes that made him pay attention. She moved with her usual grace, scanning the skies, her silver eyes reflecting the distant stars. Something is coming, she said softly, almost to herself. Ethan's stomach tightened. What do you mean? Something dangerous? Althara nodded. Yes. I detect ships approaching. They are not friendly. Your species is not the target, but I am. Ethan stopped in his tracks. Not friendly? You mean aliens? Like attacking aliens? Althara's gaze never wavered. Yes. They are hunters, advanced and ruthless. They recognize me as a threat. And where I go, danger often follows. Ethan felt a shiver run down his spine. He had read stories of hostile alien factions, of interstellar pirates and merciless civilizations, but he had never imagined one would appear here, on his home colony. The first warning came moments later. Sensors on the colony's perimeter lit up red, signaling multiple ships entering the system. Small and fast, they moved in coordinated patterns, circling the colony like predators. Commander Halloran arrived quickly, his expression grim. "Report!" he barked, scanning the console. Ethan ran up beside him. "Commander, Althara says they're after her, not the colony, but we'll be caught in the crossfire." Halloran nodded. "Then we prepare. Everyone, defensive positions. Engineers, assist with shields. Pilots, take positions. Everyone else, stay safe." Althara moved to the plaza center, her calm aura contrasting sharply with the rising tension. "Do not underestimate them. They are precise, powerful, and merciless. But you have something they do not expect." Ethan frowned. "What's that?" "Human ingenuity," Althara said simply. "You survive, create, and adapt in ways many species cannot. That may save us all." The colony's defenses were primitive compared to the incoming ships, but humans were determined. Engineers like Ethan worked quickly, modifying drones, rerouting power to shields, and preparing makeshift barriers. Pilots scrambled into their small fighters, ready to intercept intruders. Althara, meanwhile, observed the approaching ships, analyzing patterns and movements. "They coordinate, but they are predictable," she noted. "We can use their confidence against them." Ethan's mind raced. "Predictable? How do you know that?" Althara's eyes glimmered. "Observation, human. I have faced hunters before. Confidence leads to patterns. Patterns create weaknesses." Hours passed as the first wave of ships approached. They fired warning shots near the outer perimeter, testing the colony's defenses. Sparks flew, alarms blared, and humans scrambled to maintain control. Ethan guided a squad of drones into defensive positions. "Keep them away from the main hub," he shouted. "Don't let them breach the shields." Althara moved alongside him, her movements fluid and deliberate. She manipulated energy in ways humans could barely understand, creating protective fields around critical equipment and redirecting energy to the colony's shields. The alien ships fired again, more aggressively. Drones exploded in flashes of light, sending sparks into the sky. Humans fought bravely, improvising traps and ambushes. Ethan realized that despite being technologically outmatched, they had something that the attackers could not predict: creativity, courage, and the determination to survive. Althara's voice cut through the chaos. "Ethan, use the central power conduit, divert energy into the outer perimeter, force them into the narrow approach corridors." Ethan's eyes widened. "You mean, use the colony itself as a trap?" "Yes," she said calmly. "It is risky, but your species' resourcefulness can turn risk into advantage." He nodded. "All right, let's do it." Working quickly, Ethan and his team rerouted power, creating channels of energy that acted like barriers, forcing the alien ships into tight corridors where their numbers and speed became disadvantages. Drones and automated turrets fired at close range, taking advantage of the attackers' confinement. The aliens were strong and fast, but the humans were clever. They adapted, used every tool available, and followed Althara's guidance. Energy shields flared, ships collided, and sparks filled the air as strategy and skill battled raw power. Althara moved like a shadow through the chaos, guiding humans and redirecting energy. Her presence inspired them, and even the most fearful colonists found courage they did not know they had. Ethan's heart pounded as he controlled a squadron of drones, watching them weave through the incoming attackers. Come on, he muttered, pushing them to their limits. One alien ship broke through the outer defense, heading straight for the colony's central hub. Ethan's instincts kicked in. He maneuvered drones and automated turrets to intercept it. Sparks and energy blasts filled the air as the ship collided with the defenses, its trajectory diverted just enough to avoid catastrophic damage. Althara approached, her silver eyes glowing. "Well done, human. You act quickly, and you think beyond the obvious. That is your strength." Ethan grinned, adrenaline fueling him. "Thanks. I couldn't have done it without you." The battle raged for hours. Human fighters dodged and weaved, drones adapted, and Althara's guidance turned the tide. Slowly, the alien attackers began to retreat, realizing that despite their strength, the humans were unpredictable and clever. They had underestimated the resilience of a species they considered weak. Finally, the last ship disengaged, disappearing into the distance. The colony was battered but intact. Humans cheered, exhausted but victorious. Engineers repaired what they could. Pilots surveyed the sky, and citizens embraced in relief. Ethan collapsed onto the plaza floor, wiping sweat from his forehead. We did it," he said breathlessly. Althara stood beside him, her silver eyes calm but pleased. "Yes, you humans have shown courage, ingenuity, and determination. You surprise even me." Ethan looked at her, awe in his eyes. You helped us too. I don't know how we would have managed without you." Althera smiled faintly. I did not fight alone. You led, you adapted, and you persevered. That is what I admire most. Commander Halloran approached, nodding in respect. Well done, all of you. Today, humanity proved something important. Not just survival, but strength, courage, and intelligence. Ethan glanced around at the humans who had fought and the aliens who had guided them. He realized something profound. Even a species considered weak, fragile, and untested could stand tall against overwhelming odds. The universe might be dangerous, but humans had heart, creativity, and an unbreakable spirit. Althera looked at the sky, her expression thoughtful. Your species has potential beyond measure. You survive, adapt, and create in ways I have seldom seen. Perhaps, together, humans and I can explore that potential. Ethan felt a spark of excitement. Together, yeah, that sounds amazing. As the sun, or artificial equivalent, set over the colony, Ethan realized that this battle was only the beginning. Danger would come again, but humans had proven something today, that courage, intelligence, and unity could overcome even the greatest challenges. Althera placed a hand gently on his shoulder. Do not be afraid of the universe, human. It is vast, unpredictable, and sometimes dangerous. But you, your species, you are ready to face it. Ethan smiled, feeling a mix of pride, excitement, and anticipation. Yeah, we are. And with you here, maybe we can face anything. Somewhere deep in the shadows, the colony's repaired systems hummed with renewed energy. Sparks of possibility filled the air, reminding Ethan that even in the darkest hours, humans could shine. And as the stars stretched across the sky, Althera and Ethan stood together, ready to meet the next challenge, knowing that the universe was not just vast. It was full of opportunities for those brave enough to seize them. The galaxy was waiting, and humanity had just begun to show its true colors. The colony had survived the attack. The alien ships were gone, and the skies returned to their usual calm, dotted with distant stars. But the events of the past days had left a mark. Humans moved with a new confidence, their spirits lifted by the knowledge that even in the face of overwhelming danger, they had endured. Ethan stood at the observation deck, staring at the stars. Althera was beside him, silent, her silver eyes reflecting the cosmos. The battle had tested everyone, yet it had also revealed something extraordinary: humanity's courage, intelligence, and resilience. Do you ever get tired of danger? Ethan asked quietly, breaking the silence. Althera smiled faintly. Danger is part of existence, but courage, bravery, witnessing it in unexpected places, that is what makes it worthwhile. Ethan chuckled. Well, humans have plenty of courage. I think we surprised even ourselves this time. She tilted her head, studying him. Indeed. Your species is remarkable. Fragile, yes, but persistent, clever, adaptable, and full of spirit. I have observed many civilizations, Ethan, but none like yours. Ethan felt a rush of pride. Thanks. That means a lot coming from you. Althera's gaze softened. I have decided to stay, at least for a time. There is much I can learn from you, and perhaps you can learn from me as well. Ethan's eyes widened slightly. Stay? Here? Yes, she replied calmly. Your species has potential, and I am curious. Curiosity is a gift. The two walked through the colony together. For the first time in days, there was no immediate danger. Traders resumed their work. Children laughed and ran through zero-gravity playgrounds, and the hum of engines filled the air with familiarity. Humans looked at Althera with a mix of awe and acceptance. Her presence had shifted their perspective. No longer was she just an alien visitor. She was a symbol of possibility, of the universe's vast potential, and of humanity's ability to meet it with courage. Ethan led her to the colony's training grounds, where humans were experimenting with new defense techniques. Pilots practiced maneuvers, engineers tested drones, and scientists refined protective shields. Althara watched closely, occasionally offering insights that improved their strategies. "You teach them well," she remarked. "Even in small ways, humans learn quickly. Your species adapts impressively." Ethan grinned. "We have to. Space isn't forgiving, but I think we do better when we work together." Althara nodded. "Collaboration. Strength in unity. Yes, that is a lesson worth learning." As the day passed, the humans and Althara continued to explore new technologies, plan for future defenses, and share knowledge. For Ethan, it was exhilarating. He had never imagined that his joke, his call across space, would lead to this: an alien ally, a protector, and a friend who could help humanity reach for the stars. That evening, the colony held a small celebration. Though the battle had caused damage, the humans were alive, and they had survived. Fires burned in controlled areas, food was shared, and laughter filled the plaza once more. Ethan found himself at the center of attention, not for any heroic act, but because of the story of his joke that reached across the universe. Children crowded around him, asking questions about Althara, about the alien ships, and about the courage humans had shown. Althara stood beside him, observing quietly. When a child asked her if she would stay, she nodded gently. "Yes, I am curious about your world, and I enjoy learning from its people." Ethan felt a mix of pride and happiness. For the first time, his life felt bigger than himself, bigger than the colony. He was part of a story that stretched across the stars, a story of courage, ingenuity, and connection. As the celebration continued, Althara led Ethan to a quieter spot on the plaza. "You called, Ethan," she said softly. "It was a joke, yet it reached across the void. That took courage. Few humans would dare it." Ethan laughed nervously. "I honestly didn't think anyone would answer. Not like this." Althara's eyes glimmered in the light of the fires. "Sometimes the universe responds to boldness. Sometimes it rewards those who reach out, even in jest. And sometimes the reward is unexpected." Ethan felt his heart beat faster. "Reward, you mean?" She smiled faintly. "Connection, understanding, friendship, perhaps more. You see, Ethan, humans have a spark. You are fragile, yes, but within that fragility lies something powerful, the ability to reach beyond your limits." He smiled, feeling both humility and excitement. I think you're right. Humans can be stronger than we think, especially when we have someone like you beside us." Althara's silver eyes softened. "And I am learning what it means to witness courage, ingenuity, and spirit in its purest form. You humans, you inspire me." For a moment, the two of them stood silently, watching the stars. The galaxy stretched endlessly above them, full of mystery, danger, and wonder. Yet, despite the vastness, the humans had proven their place within it. Ethan thought about the battles, the fear, and the uncertainty. He thought about the courage of the engineers, the pilots, and every colonist who had stood together. And he realized something profound. Humanity's greatest strength was not its technology, its numbers, or even its intelligence. It was its heart. Althara spoke softly. "There is more to see, more to learn, more to discover. And together, we may achieve things neither of us could alone." Ethan nodded. "Yeah, we can. And I want to be part of that. With you." The evening faded into night, and the colony glowed softly under the artificial lights. Fires burned, laughter echoed, and life moved forward. Humanity had survived, and in doing so had proven its courage and ingenuity. Althara turned to Ethan. Your species has potential beyond measure. You have survived, adapted, and inspired. And now, the universe has noticed, not as a joke but as a statement. Humanity endures. Humanity matters. Ethan smiled, feeling the truth in her words. Yeah, we do. And with you here, maybe we can reach even further. The colony thrived in the days that followed. Humans repaired what had been damaged, expanded their knowledge, and strengthened their defenses. Althara stayed among them, sharing her wisdom, learning from their creativity, and guiding them to understand the galaxy in ways they had never imagined. And as the stars twinkled above, Ethan realized that his life and humanity's story had changed forever. What began as a joke had grown into something extraordinary. A connection across worlds, a partnership that bridged species, and the knowledge that humans, no matter how fragile, could achieve greatness. The galaxy was vast, full of danger and opportunity, but humanity was ready. Boldness, courage, ingenuity, and heart had carried them this far, and with Althara's guidance, they would carry them further. Ethan looked at her, a quiet determination in his eyes. So, what's next? He asked. Althara's silver eyes glimmered with amusement and curiosity. Next, we explore, we learn, we survive, and perhaps we thrive. Together. Ethan grinned. Then let's do it. For humanity, for the stars, and maybe for us too. As the colony settled into its peaceful night, the story of Ethan's joke became legend. A reminder that even the smallest actions, even a laugh shouted across a plaza, could echo across the universe and bring hope, courage, and connection to the farthest corners of space. The adventure was far from over, but humanity had taken its first bold step into the larger universe, and this time, they were not alone. And somewhere in the stars above, the pulse of possibility continued to hum, echoing the courage, ingenuity, and heart of a species that had truly begun to reach for greatness.